Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. So I just saw Solo, a Star Wars story last night, and we finished up a review, so now that that's out of the way, I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into the film. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the background that I kind of want to talk about. Now, before we continue, if you guys haven't seen the movie yet, there are going to be some spoilers in this video. So at the end of the film, we find out that the criminal organization Crimson Dawn is being run by none other than Darth Maul. Well, actually, he's just Maul by this point. I want to basically discuss in this video what he's been up to in the background, and then make some educated guesses on why he's doing what he's doing. So after being cut in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul falls into a garbage pit and is taken to the junk world of Lotho Minor. The only thing that really keeps him alive during this period of time is his obsession with finding Obi-Wan Kenobi, aka the Great Dilemma, and preventing the Jedi from cutting off anyone else's limbs. Eventually, Maul's brother Oprus finds him and helps him off the planet. The two go to Dathomir, where the powerful Dathmari witch Mother Talzin gives him some more streamlined legs and repairs his mind. Maul has a deep connection with the planet of Dathomir. It's where he was born, and where all Dathmiris return to when they're down on their luck, but more on that later. With his mind and body repaired, Maul and his brother run around the galaxy trying to draw out Obi-Wan Kenobi for a fight. They even massacre an entire village in order to get his attention. Although Maul and Kenobi would run into each other multiple times, Maul never really manages to kill the Jedi. Now, the former Sith Lord eventually links up with a rebel faction of the Mandalorian people known as Death Watch. Death Watch was attempting to seize Mandalore from Duchess Satine Kryze, the current Mandalorian leader. She was an avid pacifist and was a leader of a huge block of non-aligned systems during the Clone War. Maul saw an opportunity to use Death Watch to seize control of Mandalore for himself. The planet had very little in defensive capabilities, and the Republic and Separatists were too busy fighting each other to pay it any attention. Maul decides to supplement the Death Watch's numbers by uniting several criminal organizations, including the Black Suns, Pike Syndicate, and eventually even the Hutts. This was an extremely impressive feat, as each one of these organizations spanned across multiple planets, had thousands of soldiers and thugs, and plenty of resources. Maul's coalition of Mandalorian rebels and criminals would become known as the Shadow Collective. Using the criminal syndicates to launch a false attack on Mandalore, Maul was able to justify bringing in the Death Watch back to save the planet, and then dispose the Duchess, who was too weak to control the criminals herself. Maul's plan worked brilliantly, and he was easily able to take over the planet. Maul's next move would be to take over the Death Watch by defeating its leader in single combat. This is when Maul really starts beginning to realize the true potential of all of these criminal syndicates. Now, Maul's victory and rule was short-lived, as Chancellor Palpatine would find out about Maul's plan. Darth Sidious journeyed to Mandalore, quickly defeated Maul and his brother, and forced his former apprentice into submission. Sidious's goal was to keep Maul alive long enough to draw out Mother Talzin. Eventually, Maul would escape and lead his Shadow Collective against both the Separatists and the Republic. Ultimately, the Shadow Collective would crumble and fall apart. Maul would gather his remaining forces on Mandalore and stay there until the end of the Clone War. Eventually, Ahsoka Tano and Captain Rex would besiege the last of Maul's forces. Although the Republic was victorious, Maul would escape. And then comes the Solo movie. We don't really hear much of Maul in the movie, but he seems like the only person Dryden Voss is afraid of. When Voss dies, Qi'ra contacts Maul. Maul in return tells Qi'ra to come to Dathomir, where he's hiding, and that they would be working a lot more closely in the next few days. Now, after the collapse of the Shadow Collective, it does seem like Maul has some remaining contacts with the Black Suns and Pike Syndicate. He's definitely still using criminal organizations to do his bidding. So we know that both the Black Sun and Pike Syndicate lost a lot of power after the collapse of the Shadow Collective, but we do know that they survived at least until the Galactic Civil War period. Now, it's very possible that Maul has retained some of his former members of the Shadow Collective in his new organization, the Crimson Dawn, which is actually just the play off of Black Sun. It's kind of like a bloody revival of that gang. The Pike Syndicate, on the other hand, isn't allied with Maul in the film, and it's gone back to running the Kessel Mines at this point. We also know that the Crimson Dawn has been accused of raiding villages and cutting villagers' tongues out and stealing all of their resources. This is partly why Enfys Nest is created in the first place. Now, the movie hints that Enfys Nest is a part of the greater rebellion movement against oppression across the galaxy, but I don't think that really means that the Crimson Dawn has anything to do with the Empire, especially because Maul and Sidious aren't exactly on speaking terms. There's also an odd fascination with the element of coaxium in Solo. We first see it on the streets of Corellia, where Han escapes a botched coaxium deal. More coaxium is the target for a train heist later on in the movie, and even when Han and Beckett aren't able to grab the coaxium, it seems like Dryden Voss just wants coaxium. He doesn't ask for credits or any other resources. As a matter of fact, he even listens to Han's crazy plan about going to Kessel, robbing the Pike Syndicate, and then taking unrefined coaxium and then refining it, which is just the entire process and seems like an unnecessary risk. So there's obviously a reason why the Crimson Dawn wants coaxium. So coaxium is basically jet fuel. It's super potent, and just a small amount can fuel an entire fleet. This also makes the substance extremely volatile. Now, I'm not really sure why Maul would need so much fuel. I guess it is possible that he wants to use the coaxium as an explosive on his next mission. We do see him again in canon. The next time he pops up is on the planet of Malachor. On Malachor, he's looking for an ancient Sith temple which holds a holocron, which could potentially lead him to Obi-Wan Kenobi. But unfortunately, Maul's ship had crash landed, so he was kind of stuck on the planet for 15 years trying to open the temple. Now, a powerful explosive like coaxium could have helped him maybe open the temple, but again, we don't see any of it on Malachor when we see Maul again. I think the most likely scenario is that Maul wanted to turn the coaxium into more credits. There's definitely a big demand for coaxium on the black market. It seems like everyone knows how much it's worth and how expensive it is, and especially with a galactic empire in control of everything, it's very possible that coaxium is extremely hard to get and very, very expensive on the black market. So why does Maul need the money? I think it's in order to find the location of that secret temple on Malachor in order to find the Sith holocron. It's definitely a really hidden location, so I'm guessing it's really expensive to find the right information to lead you there. And of course, his end goal out of all of this hasn't really changed much since the Battle of Naboo. He still wants to take down Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, obviously, if you've seen the entire Rebel series, you know what happens to Maul, but again, it is really interesting to see him in the Solo film. Especially if you consider that they're also confirming a Boba Fett movie and an Obi-Wan Kenobi film as well. Boba Fett was always dealing with the criminal syndicates, and of course, Maul had his whole relationship with Obi-Wan. So I think it's really possible that we might see Qi'ra and Maul again in these next Star Wars anthology films. It should also be noted that Emilia Clarke and Alden Ehrenreich have additional Star Wars films on their contracts. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I was really excited to see Maul return back to the big screen. I know a lot of fans, including myself, felt like he was kind of, cut short after Episode 1. I think he really does deserve to have more of a presence. He's definitely a fan favorite. Well guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.